Hello everyone, and today I'll be reading a Neuvillette listener, so let's get into it. For the past few days, you've been feeling rather anxious as you passed through the way home. Basically, the problem was that whenever you were on the way home, there would be a group of boys standing there in a spot that you would have to pass through, and it seemed to be a usual meetup spot for them. At first, you had no issue. It was none of your business and did not concern you. Until one of them started flirting with you, even to the point of following you for a couple minutes. It terrified you to no end, and when you went home, you had tried to make sure that you weren't being followed. You felt unsafe in the most horrible way ever, and you were terrified of ever having to meet them again. You never thought you would actually meet them again. After all, maybe it was just coincidence. But then, as you passed by the next day, the boy had actually seemed cheerful at seeing you and started flirting with you again, this time being more relentless, with some of his friends laughing at you even, as if you were a sort of entertainment to them. It was humiliating, terrifying, and you wanted to get home as soon as possible. Yesterday, you didn't tell Neuvillette about any of this. You didn't want to tell him. You didn't want to bother him with nonsense. After all, he had a lot of things to deal with that were actually serious. And right now you could not concern him with this nonsense that you're going through. You should be stronger than this. You should be able to deal with this on your own. And yet, here you are, panicking, terrified, because of some boys who just flirted with you. Well, it was not simply flirting, and it veered more on stalking. Regardless, it was something you should have been able to deal with, without actually worrying him so much, or so you thought, until it kept on repeating, more and more. And at one point it got so dangerous. The guy did not stop following you, and you had to go off a few blocks off your route until you were sure that he was no longer following you anymore. You were scared, terrified, and that's when you knew you had to get Neuvillette's help. That's why when you got off work, you called him to come get you and walked away with you home. And so, as you held your hands and felt how nervous you were, he frowned. Dearest, is everything all right? I can't help but be rather concerned about your behavior. You are acting very odd. But you just gave him a fake smile, shaking your head. I am just fine, Neuvillette. I promise. There's no reason to worry about me. We're just coming home together, that's all. I just needed to be with you today. Maybe my mood is not the best, and I needed some company. He nodded, and as you held your hand, he leaned down to kiss it before the two of you continued your walk. And that's when you passed through the same place where that pervert who bothered you would always reside. And you saw him, his friends, and then he locked eyes on you, but a smile could not spread on his face as soon as he saw Neuvillette. And him and his friends seemed rather angered by the sight. You thought you could pretend to have a boyfriend so you would lay off? He said, and that's when Neuvillette noticed them, a frown crossing his face. What is going on here? He asks, and that's when you start to panic, holding him tighter and shaking your head. Neuvillette, let's just go home. Please, I don't want to fight. Wayan, what is going on here? He asks once more, and you can feel the anger radiate off of him. He's not shouting, his voice is calm, but the anger is there, and you know him better than anyone. The boys don't, though, and they keep making remarks about you, about how they're never going to stop following you, and that alone sets him off. And before you know it, he's left your side, and he's fighting them, punching each one of them down. It's a 3-on-1 fight, and yet, in a couple of minutes, the 3 of them are curled down in a heap, while Neuvillette looks over, standing over them. You are disgusting, the scum of the world. I cannot believe such filthy people still exist. But you will be dealt with. I have now given you my punishment. And there will be another one, he said. I have called the cops, and if you try to run, I may as well just break your legs while I'm at it. You held on to him. Looking at him was something of adoration and gratefulness. You were relieved to have him by your side, to have someone who loved you so greatly and was willing to be with you in such a manner. You are grateful for every moment you got with him, but most importantly, for his ability to make you feel safe like this. And once he was done with them, he held your hand and took you away. And then, once you were out of sight, he hugged you tightly to his chest. Moyan, I have one thing I need to ask of you. Please, please never do this to me again. Don't lie to me, and don't trick me. Do not leave me in the dark. I need to know what's going on. I need to know when someone's hurting you or scaring you. And right now, if I hadn't been there, if you hadn't told me, one of these days, they could have done something to you, Wayan, and regret would have been useless. Please, I don't want to regret anything with you, he said, and as you cried into his shirt, you held on to him while he hugged you tighter. He was not mad, and right now he was more than relieved that you were okay. Surely you will have learned from this. You will know when to tell him of your problems. But right now what mattered to him was that you were out of harm's way, and that he gave them a very well-deserved lesson. Although, if you ask him, nothing would ever be enough just to make up for what they've done.